Yep. Your name and when you were on the ship and what you did.
That's Ernie Delucchi. I was a electrician's mate, third class, and I was on the Orleck from December of '63 to September of 1966.
Okay. And where are we at right now?
This is our division berthing compartment. Our racks were this configuration here with 3 racks with the canvas bottoms and the 3 foot lockers below. And there was another set right here and another set of 3 here, and this was the area that my rack was in. And we went on around
Where was your rack at? What area?
Right here.
Okay.
Right in this area
All right.
here, right where you come around the merry-go-round. And then in this area here, there was 2 sets, 2 rows that came all the way out to approximately here.
Isn't that beautiful? Night bomber.
So about how many
Beautiful.
guys were down here?
24, somewhere in there. And then on the other side was set up the same way, and they were the storekeepers were on the other side of the ship. So I got to see everyone that was going back into the deck division berthing compartment. They came by me to get back there. Down below us is the ammunition storage. The 5-inch projectiles were stored down in that area. Someone would be down there, they'd hand them up here, we'd take them and we would store them on the deck. Those lockers were not there, we would just kind of pile them up on the deck, and as they needed them in the merry-go-round, we'd load them in here. And tell you what we would be shooting at that mission, and we'd have those projectiles sitting up here and ready to go.
Would they screw the appropriate fuse on it, or were they just stored with different fuses on it?
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure. What I saw, they were all together. We'd pull the nose caps off, and everything was on them and ready to go as they came up. So I think they were all set, and they'd set the fuses. So they all had, at first they were brass nose caps, but then they went to some kind of an alloy. And we would take those brass nose caps and store them in gunny sacks, and when we got to Hong Kong, we'd pay for the ship to be washed and painted with scrap metal. But there were nose caps.
Which is probably why we've never seen any aboard.
It might be.
I'd heard similar stories before.
Yeah. Started out with a lot of them, and then, like I say, they switched to some kind of an alloy that wasn't worth anything, and we couldn't get anyone to take them and paint the ship, pay for painting the ship.
So what happened then? You had to do it yourself?
Then we had to do it ourselves, yeah. Yeah. So it just brings back lots of memories, lots of good memories. I woke up a couple of times hanging onto this vent pipe with my feet going out that way, getting some heavy seas. And of course there was no air conditioning at the time, so there was lots of personal fans. They allowed personal fans as long as the electricians checked them out, and they mount personal fans at the foot of their rack so they have a little bit of air movement, because it was typically 102, 103 degrees down here at 3 or 4 in the morning.
Wow.
And sometime in the mid to late 60s they installed air conditioning in the berthing compartments. In late 66 was when they first went in. And now up until then, most of the berthing compartments were not air conditioned. Most of the ship wasn't air conditioned.
We get that question a lot.
Yeah. The air conditioning was in officers' country and electronics rooms and spaces like that, radar, where they had at that time there was a lot of vacuum tubes. They had to keep the stuff cool, so there was air conditioning in those spaces, but everywhere else there was none. Mess decks and nowhere else.
So what were you saying about the aft engine? The aft diesel?
The after diesel was my special scene anchored detail station, so we were there anytime that we were entering or leaving port, and also anytime we were taking on supplies from other ships, and there was an electrician and an engineman assigned to that space. There was also one electrician and an engineman in the forward emergency diesel, and we were there just to take care of things should there be a problem, and we spent many hours there. And one day they decided to put a little bit too much fuel in the fuel tank that's back underneath the after diesel, and we had about a quarter of an inch of bunker oil all along the deck of that after diesel, and it took weeks to get that stuff out of there.
And when you weren't there, where else were you working?
Well, I was an electrician, so we had our day's work consisted of changing lights or servicing motors, whatever kind of electrical equipment we had on the ship was ours to take care of, and that was our workstation. And we stood watch on the forward engine room. The forward switchboard was the central switchboard, and normally no one was watching the after switchboard. That was just the on-duty electrician's job to go back there and check it about once an hour and make sure things were okay back there. Generally, you spent most of your time in the forward engine room at the forward switchboard. And my battle station was repair 3, so we would be back here in the back third of the ship, and when our job was to take care of anything that should go wrong, whether it was flooding or anything. A light that would go out that someone needed, a critical light, we'd have to fix it. And we also spent a lot of time handling ammunition. There never was enough people to handle ammunition, service the after gun mount. We spent time in the merry-go-round, back loading the merry-go-round or loading the hoists, and so that was our battle stations. I also was on a fire crew for the dash helicopter, so anytime they flew the dash helicopter, we were up there on the flight deck with our fire hoses and stuff should something happen up there. And we had the dress ship lights up, and somebody in the radar room turned the antenna on, the motor, so it spun around, and it got caught up in the dress ship lights. And something failed in the controller because overload should have just picked it up and dropped it out. Well, that didn't happen. It burned the motor up. So we had no surface search radar. We were in Hong Kong. We were going back to Yokosuka. They said, well, that's okay. We'll just fix it when we get to Yokosuka. So we got into a storm in the Taiwan Straits, and they decided, maybe we better have that. So here we are in the middle of the night. Nasty raging storm, winds blowing, it's raining, and we've got to change this motor. Well, we didn't have a replacement motor that fit right on there. So we found a motor that met the electrical specifications and the horsepower rating to run the antenna. But then we needed a coupling. So our machinist mate was down there, and he made up a coupling so that we could couple the motor to the gearbox of the antenna. And the shipbuilders built a stand for it to sit on, because it sat away from the housing of the, the motor drive, sat away from it maybe 6 or 8 inches. So we had a coupling sitting out there, and then a stand for the motor, hooked the power up to it, fired up the antenna. And we did that
in the middle of a storm.
In the middle of a storm, in the middle of the night. So. At one time, there's 2 or 3 people belted off up there doing something, welding or, putting couplings together, or doing something, doing some wiring.
They walk through the main deck, basically, just like you do in the tour.
You just do what you got to do. They had us off on a mission. Supply ship came back, we started to go out, and they'd call us, we'd go back. So we missed it the second time. Now we're starting to run out of stuff, So the supply ship came back through again, we start to go out to meet the supply ship, and they call us back to the firing line again. Missed it again. Well, now we did run out of everything. We ran out. We had no flour. We ran out of everything. We were eating the K rations that they had. We had on board. We had K rations for a few days until that we finally met with the supply ship. Finally met it the 4th time through. Yeah, that that was an experience too. You know, see how many ways you can cook K rations.